The names Columbia, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, Universal, Warner Brothers and MGM have been and still are synonymous with Hollywood and the movies. So are names like Cecil B. DeMille, Howard Hawks, John Ford and hundreds more, the movie makers. But today, the smash hit films are being made by a whole new breed. They're calling them the children of Hollywood, the movie brats. The new names are as well known as their movies. Francis Ford Coppola, who made The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, George Lucas, Star Wars, Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And finally, the biggest and best known brat of them all, Steven Spielberg, the man who became a celluloid hero with movies like Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Poltergeist. And on top of all that, opening here in Australia next month, E.T., the Extraterrestrial, already one of the most successful movies of all time.
There's no limit to my imagination, but there's a limit to how I can act upon my imagination. It's just humanly impossible to make all the movies that I would like to make in my lifetime.
So there's never a cut-off point? There's never a point where there's not another movie to be made?
Thus far, no, not so far. There will be someday, because I'll probably get old and go on the lecture circuit and talk about all the movies I should have made.
In a business that throws around superlatives like popcorn, Steven Spielberg at 34 is a genuine whiz kid, the wonder boy of movie make-believe.
Yes. Right, okay, good.
His pictures like Raiders of the Lost Ark, the ultimate boy's own adventure, are doing two things. They're breaking every box office record in the book and allowing Steven Spielberg to turn his childhood fantasies and dreams into at least Hollywood's idea of reality.
When I confuse real life with movie life, that's when I have to step back and say, wait a second, you know,
Does it happen very often? You begin to wonder where the movie ends and reality begins.
It happened last year when I was in production on two movies at the same time, Poltergeist and E.T., and I was finishing up post-production on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I was planning a musical with Quincy Jones. I was thinking about an adult love story called Always, and all of a sudden I realized that I was a non-entity. I was existing only on celluloid, and I was losing my own identification with Steven Spielberg, and I was forming sprocket holes down both sides of my face and frame lines across my body, and I was starting to move at about 8 frames a second, which is too fast to move in movie jargon.
How much of your time is your real life?
About this much is me, and about this much is the movies, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a more even chemical balance between what I do and who I am.
3 of Spielberg's films, Jaws, Close Encounters and Raiders, are still filling movie theatres around the world. They said he couldn't do it again. But no film has ever made as much money as quickly as Spielberg's latest. E.T., a grown-up's fairy tale about a lovable alien from outer space trapped in Middle America, in 4 months has already grossed a record $300 million in the US alone. What you're trying to say in E.T.?
Without getting too sappy here, one of the things that I was trying to do with E.T., maybe the most essential thing, was to make a movie about love and about emotional ties between people of all races. We immediately accept E.T. because he's from outer space. Why do we not accept our brothers here on Earth because they're from another country or they're from another neighborhood?
Are your movies about your childhood fantasies?
Well, I don't know if it's that simple. It's about my greatest desires, and it's about dreams that I've always had, never able to realize in real life, real three-dimensional life.
Who then is this E.T., Hollywood's newest star, this extraterrestrial heartthrob? Certainly not your regular sci-fi monster. E.T.'s afraid, alone, and 3 million light years from home. Like E.T., Steven Spielberg might be well-meaning, but he's no fool. This is all he will let us show you of his creation, until you get a chance to cough up for a movie ticket.
He's the kind of schleppy, not too attractive guy you want to take home and introduce to mother. He's non-threatening to parents.
Schleppy, you're going to have to explain that to an Australian.
Schleppy's just kind of like a short, fat little guy who walks slow and thinks broad cosmic thoughts.
Do you really believe that there are friendly, intelligent beings other than those on Earth? Or is it just a good idea for a film?
I think there are friendly, intelligent beings here on Earth. I got to tell you, I have many friends who I consider to be as benevolent and benign as E.T. But I really believe that there's life elsewhere. I have both an intuitive feeling and also a mathematical belief that there are beings, both friendly and hostile, off this planet somewhere else.
The Hollywood hacks laughed when Universal Studios chose a 26-year-old Spielberg to direct the horror thriller Jaws. The snipers crowed again that he was finished when his giant fish story went way over budget. Nevertheless, since then, he's been called the greatest master of suspense since Alfred Hitchcock. And Jaws, the most unsettling picture since Psycho, the most fearsome since King Kong.
Everybody suggested I quit after Jaws. They said, no movie will ever make this much money. And I kept saying, but don't you realize that I might make a picture that makes no money, that you might not like at all, but that might be my best picture as far as I'm concerned.
So if you're not motivated by money and success, how are you handling the fact that you've now got both?
Well, I don't have to handle it so much as long as I can feed the dog. You know, as long as the dog eats, we're real happy. I don't support a big family. This is about it right here.
People like yourself and the new movie makers, people like George Lucas, Francis Coppola, are certainly very different kind of people from the old movie makers. Do you feel that you are that different?
Yeah, I think we're motivated by work and by the films we make, less about what the films can earn for us and how we can spend our leisure time.
So how is Hollywood handling people like yourself?
Well, they kind of reject people like me and Francis and George. We're sort of we're not really part of the Hollywood party circuit, as it were. I don't get invited to any parties. I haven't been invited to a Hollywood party in about 5 years.
Would you go if you were invited?
Well, if I knew the people well and they were friends of mine, I'd like to see what a Hollywood party is like. I mean, I'm not on the A list here. I'm on like the D list. Because I don't really think that I'm considered part of the old Hollywood fabric. I'm this weird kid that makes movies, and George is this weird kid who lives in Northern California who's rejected Hollywood by moving 400 miles away. And Francis is just weird.
It's no surprise that the kid who makes movies for and about the suburbs came from suburban Phoenix, Arizona. Now being touted as the hottest director in Hollywood, it's also no great surprise that while he was still at junior high, young Steven made dozens of backyard spectaculars using his father's 8mm home movie camera, including this adolescent epic that he called Fighter Squad. Was there ever any chance that Steven Spielberg was going to be other than a movie maker?
No, no chance at all. For a while there, my father thought I was going to follow in his footsteps and become a computer engineer. But I was very bad at math. And he gave up, and he, at one point, he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a movie director. He says, well, you're going to be sorry, because that's going to lead to disappointment. And I said, no, I think I can make it in the movie business.
Well, you seem to have made it after all that sort of beginning. How do you feel when people describe you as possibly the greatest filmmaker in the world today? Because it's a pretty silly thing to say about anybody.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think it's a pretty silly thing to say about anybody, actually.
In very American fashion, Spielberg admits he conned his way into Universal Studios as a director, and it wasn't long before he started breaking records. This nail-biting telemovie, Duel, took out a fistful of foreign awards and quickly led to Spielberg directing his first feature movie.
I just think that people, when they go to a movie, shouldn't be given the entire meaning of the film in a nutshell.
You want to leave people guessing?
Not really guessing. They should come out satisfied that they've had an emotional experience and they've understood and liked all the people in the picture. But they should also go out of the movie thinking about the movie. Let the movie stick, to them like a musk. You can't get it off with soap and water. It just is on you for.
Stays with you.
Yeah, it's kind of like being skunked. In a good way.
You might have to explain being skunked to an Australian audience too.
Small furry creature, white stripe down the tail, sprays you, and you can't get it out of your clothes. You often have to burn your clothes because the after odor lingers for months, sometimes years, kind of like radioactive fallout.
So once you've got the smell, you're stuck with it.
In a nice way. I'm terrible with these analogies, but I kind of like to make movies that leave you with an impression that doesn't go away in 24 hours. I think I'll check this one out. This is a good...
Spielberg, the space-age Lewis Carroll, relaxing in his own wonderland, is both a video fanatic and a technology freak.
Ooh, how did I do that?
The gravity factor is what makes this different
yeah,
from the others.
that's what makes this a cakewalk.
You could say he's pretty much the perennial teenager for whom life has become one long Saturday afternoon matinee.
You got me. Blew me out of the cosmos into 1,000 photons.
You said once that you are all of your characters. What part of Steven Spielberg, for instance, was in a guy like Indiana Jones? What childhood fantasies of yours were you living out through him?
Every television show I ever watched, from the ages of 2 through, I think, 12, and every serial I ever saw. Indiana Jones represents the hero that I've always wanted to be, and the hero that none of us will ever be within our lifetimes.
One of the most interesting things that I've read about you was a headline which said Steven Spielberg is making movies and a fortune while he's still growing up. He's really just a big kid. Is that how you see yourself? Is that a reasonable comment?
I think it's reasonable. I mean, we have to understand, how do you define a big kid? A responsible big kid or just an irresponsible big kid? Because I think you have to be responsible, but you don't want to lose the child in you, because that's what keeps you young, and that's what keeps you in touch, and keeps a smile on your face. And I don't quite know what it would be like to become an adult.
It says something for Spielberg's relentless drive to make movies and his originality that both E.T. and his modern ghost story, Poltergeist, were released at a screening at the same time. And they're both returning him millions each week. If E.T. is about Spielberg, the little boy who wanted a friend he could take home and keep, Poltergeist is about Spielberg, the little boy who was afraid of the dark and things that go bump in the night.
I really believe that there are things that happen in outer space, in inner space, right under our noses, that just because we can't find a easy scientific, explanation for what's going on, for the telekinesis and the things that go bump in the night, that we often discount them as just being, well, let somebody else figure it out. As far as I'm concerned, I don't believe it. I believe in everything I can't see. That's my problem.
Didn't you say once that you think you've got a chemical imbalance in that you can't tell what is real and what is not real? A lot of people would say that's getting pretty close to losing your grip.
I don't know a movie director who hasn't lost his grip in the motion picture business. But we do things, I think movie people and the motion picture industry does things emotionally from the gut more than from the intellect. And I think that's why people go to see movies, because they want to escape from the intellect and they want to escape from current events into a very dark room with 1,000 strangers and into an experience they can't get by opening the refrigerator.
Whatever your fantasy, matinee adventures, UFO invasions, marauding larger-than-life sharks, or friendly aliens, if Steven Spielberg hasn't satisfied it yet, he probably will. But even if his effects-riddled, shock, horror, laugh, scream movies strike you as big-budget kid stuff, they're unlikely to put you to sleep. What would be a bad review for Steven Spielberg? What would be the worst thing somebody could say about your film?
I guess just that they found it boring. I think boring, the word boring would be the worst review I could ever get, because I hate that word. I take that word very personally.
If you had to describe yourself as a filmmaker, is it possible to sum up your whole style and technique?
Possible for you, maybe for me, very difficult.
Hello, I'm Dimity Clancey. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.